If there's one thing I can't stress enough when it comes to leveling up your Jerry gameplay, it's hitting through ceilings. I've lost count of how many times a sneaky down through a ceiling has absolutely turned the pace of a match into my favor, or allowed me to cut a chase short against a survivor who was seemingly unkillable. While yes, at first glance it may seem this is some weird niche tech that only a minority of maps allows you to make frequent use of, that's really not the whole picture. Let me let you in on a little secret. Out of all the realms in Dead by Daylight, there is exactly one realm that doesn't have at least one map where you can hit through a floor. I want you to guess what that realm is. Don't worry, I'm not going to beg for engagement by telling you to put your guess in the comments, but I do want to fill up enough time with self-aware padding to give you a chance to really think about it. Which realm has nowhere you could possibly hit through a ceiling? You got your guess? I'm not going to stall any longer, but I'm willing to bet that you're wrong. Why? Because the answer is Yamaoka Estate. Not Macmillan, not Autohaven, not Coldwind, Yamaoka. Don't feel bad if you guess Coldwind or Autohaven, as they both only have one map each that has a 2-story main building you can hit through the ceiling of. However, I need to let you in on yet another secret. I'm lying to you. There is no map where there's never a chance to hit through ceilings. But I think I need to lie to you. Because I'd be doing a massive disservice to the community as a whole if I were to explain that if you backhook a basement in any shack basement and weaken the rescuer as they're unhooking, you can body block the rescuer for a few seconds inside the basement, hit them normally with an M1 attack, then aim slightly in front of the back hook to down them if they fall out the window, hit this big cobweb if they run to the pallet door, or aim at the back corner if they go for the back door, but realistically if they run out the back door it's better to chase them normally. You see what I mean? It would be an awful idea to give detailed instructions on how to down a healthy survivor in the basement before they can leave the shack. So for the sake of the DBD community as a whole, let's all agree that there is nowhere in Yamaoka where the unknown can hit through a ceiling. Even with that said, every other realm has at least one map, and out of the 39 total individual maps, 28 of them have at least one spot where you can hit through a ceiling. Meaning that hitting through ceilings is not a niche tech, it's an essential part of playing Jerry. I rest my case. So now that we've beaten the niche tech allegations, let's move on to how to reliably hit through floors and ceilings. The most important thing to remember is the mantra, if there's 90 degrees, it's a breeze. These degrees can come from anything. A bit of rubble, a light bulb, a corner, literally anything at all. Which is why that's as much hand-holding as you're going to get in this video. If I were to explain every spot where you could hit through a ceiling, first off, I don't know them all. And second off, we'd be here until the end of the year, and ultimately you'd learn next to nothing. That's not a dig against you personally, that's just the sad reality of those super specific guides. For 99% of people, by the time a week passes, they'll only remember the broad strokes and maybe one or two specific lineups. And even for that 1% who'd study an 8-hour guide like it's part of the SAT, all that time spent won't be nearly as fun or effective as if they just spent that time practicing in-game with maybe some kind of guiding challenge to help focus their efforts on learning. So moral of the story, by all means, get creative. But enough waiting, allow me to introduce you to the Unknown Shark Challenge, or as literally A. Lois eloquently put it, Sharknown. Sharknown isn't meant to be the next 12-adjective ultra-clickbaity challenge that milks your adrenal glands drier than the testicles of that guy who snuck into a cow milking competition. It's just a fun, self-imposed challenge that's supposed to help you get better at improving hitting through floors. Think less along the lines of ultra, hardcore, perkless, no hooks, mega challenge, and think more along the lines of like Burger King Myers. So how do you play Sharknown? It's quite simple, really. Pick Jerry, throw on a mid-witch, offering, and never leave the first floor. I think a good starting goal is to try and achieve 10 points. You get 1 point for each weaken and injury you get through a floor, and anytime you down a survivor through a floor, you gain 2 points instead. Let me reiterate, you only get points by hitting survivors through the floor. Your point goal can be anything, but 10 is a really good start for beginners. 20 and 30, once you're a bit more experienced, would be a great long-term goal. Now there are 2 exceptions where you are allowed to go upstairs. 1, if you spawn on the 2nd floor, just beeline to the bottom and you're good to go. And 2, you're allowed to go pick up survivors that you've downed, so this challenge isn't a total slugfest for the survivors. However, while you're up there, you cannot break any objects or hit any survivors unless they're directly body blocking a hook or doorway while you're carrying a survivor. If you fail to get 10 points and at least a 3k, you fail the challenge. Also, you can still hit and chase people normally while on the first floor. That's a big part of the challenge, to be honest, weighing the risk-reward of downing a survivor on the first floor versus letting them go temporarily in the hopes of getting an easy couple points down the road. And that's it. That's the entirety of the challenge. Like I said, this is mostly a for fun thing that forces you to get good at hitting through floors. So, good luck. Hope this helps you all understand floor hits a little bit better, but with all that said, happy hunting. What? You're still here? Wait. No. Don't say anything. That stupid red bar betrayed me again. Didn't it? No, of course it did. Why wouldn't it? Okay. Alright, well, since you're still here, why don't I give you some tips on how to do a bit better in the challenge and maybe some fun examples from when I played Sharknown myself. Let's start with the builds I used. First, the add-ons. Most of my games, I used Vanishing Box and Blurry Photo, which if you've played even 2 games as Jerry, you know exactly how good these add-ons are, and I shouldn't have to explain it to you, but seeing as this video is supposed to be at least a little bit educational, we might as well anyways. It also doesn't hurt that they're especially good in this challenge. Blurry Photo lets you use your power faster after a teleport, meaning you waste less time of your precious aura perks, while Vanishing Box helps hold your hand and infect survivors as they do gens. You could probably replace it with something, but truth be told, I had a hard time finding another useful add-on for the challenge. I tried running his Obliviousness add-on, and while it didn't hurt, it also really didn't provide much visible value. The only other add-on that's useful is the OSS report, lowering your teleport's cooldown by 10 seconds, but to be honest, that can hurt you more than it helps because Distortion is your biggest weakness while playing Sharknown, and having 2 terror radii at one time on a map means the survivors are almost guaranteed to refill their distortions at all times. B movie poster can also be useful if you aren't running a nurse's build, as those 30 seconds of broken make it a lot easier to hit follow-up shots before they can heal themselves. Speaking of builds, let's talk about perks now. The build I ran for most of my games is pretty simple. Unforeseen to hide my terror radius, nowhere to hide, give me info near gens, darkness revealed to show me the auras near lockers, and the final perk of Lethal Pursuer. Lethal is by far the most important one, as it tells you right at the start of the game how many distortion dealers you're going to deal with, along with extending your other auras slightly, but trust me, you want this just to know if there's distortion or not. And now that I've told you my build, don't use it. Please, don't limit yourself just to this one build. There's so many other fun ones that I played around with that I personally couldn't quite get to work, or I didn't have quite as good results with, but maybe you guys will, or maybe you guys will have all the perks for one of these other builds. Experiment. Please. One build I tried was an Oblivious build with Hysteria, Plaything, Nurse's Calling, and Deathbound, and while it was fun, it also left me wandering around the empty halls of Midwich like an elementary schooler who successfully hid away in the janitor's closet after listening to their intrusive thoughts. There's also a really evil slugging build with Deerstalker, Nurses, Lethal, and then a 4th random info perk like Darkness Revealed or Bitter Murmur if you don't have any DLCs unlocked, but let's not talk about slugging, okay? Some other perks worth noting is Friends to the End, which, when paired with Lethal Pursuer, will burn 2 distortion stacks every time it activates, meaning that once you get a distortion user as the obsession, you'll easily be able to find them if you can keep the pressure up on the other survivors by hooking them. There's also the Trail of Torment versus Unforeseen problem, as they're almost perfect side grades to each other, the likes of which Dead by Daylight has never seen before. Trail of Torment having a high-risk, high-reward style of play, with its unreliable duration and notification that you're undetectable, versus Unforeseen's short but reliable duration that still lets survivors recharge their distortion but gives almost no warning that you are undetectable. Also, don't discount the perk Gearhead, as the recent-ish rework made it overall a very solid perk. All I wish is that it would make a small sound when it activates, but that's a topic for a different time. But that's not it. There's so many other good perks that work for this challenge I couldn't possibly name them all. Hell, I mean even things like Furtive Chase and Thwack. Yes, Thwack, the 10th least used perk in the game, has potential if you're willing to play to its strengths. So for the love of any and everything that is holy, do not lock yourself into one build. I know it's scary going out of your comfort zone, but trust me, if you really want to become a better player, experimentation is an incredibly fun and reliable way to improve. So by all means, get creative. If you haven't noticed, that's a new mantra, so throw that right next to if it's 90 degrees, it's a breeze, because if you stick around the channel long enough, you'll be hearing both of them on your deathbed. Now, let's talk about some macro strategies. Keeping a shed lane on each of the 4 corners of the first floor is a pretty safe bet, as it lets you get basically anywhere you need to be instantly. Plus, it's not hard to maintain even if the survivors constantly cleanse it. But like all things, don't be afraid to change your plans on the fly. Lost a generator, now the entire left side of the map is a dead zone for you? Don't be afraid to move one of those shed lanes over to the courtyard or close to one of the god windows that can spawn in the classrooms. This will let you use your TPs quickly to attack survivors across the map once you figure out where they are, and just generally give you some extra map pressure, maybe even cut a chase short or two. Leveraging your teleport effectively can be a massive help in succeeding not only in this challenge, but with Jerry as a whole. Which is why it's important to manage your cooldowns effectively. If you're mindlessly burning your info perks while your TP's on cooldown, you may find it hard to act upon the information your perks give you. As a whole, cooldown management is another large pillar of this challenge, as with good timing, you can overcome even awful situations. Like perhaps a game with 3 Distortion users. This was one of the first matches of Sharknown that I played, and it could not have started any worse. I spawn in, break a door, and then realize that 3 out of my 4 survivors in the lobby have Distortion. To make it worse, it took me 2 minutes and 30 seconds to get my first hit due to some poor shots on my part and a few good plays from the survivors. This doesn't get much better as I keep struggling to find people and am only able to get a few sparse hits. On the bright side, these hits do end up totaling to about 8 out of our 10-point goal. That means we can easily complete our challenge as long as we somehow manage to pull the game back and get a 3k. Thankfully, the first domino soon falls and I finally manage to slug someone about 4 minutes into the match. I leave them on the ground momentarily to try and get pressure on the other survivors and burn some Distortion stacks, which ends up paying off as I get a really nice floor bang on the Zarina before deciding to not get too greedy and go back to confirm my hook. However, by the time I got there, my slug was picked up, and ironically, I got too greedy and tried to get a double hit with the UVX and ended up missing both of the survivors. Good job, me. Thankfully, the rescuer gets confused and ends up running back into me when I cut them off. This time I learned my lesson and hooked this sable immediately, forcing the survivors to come down to rescue her. At this point, it's been almost 6 minutes and I've just gotten my first hook, which in most normal scenarios would almost guarantee a loss. However, we do have something going for us. The entity blessed us with the rare 4 first floor gens, meaning we still have a chance to win if we hold on to these gens for our dear life. Shortly after, I stumble upon Gabrielle and down him thanks to a really nice instant pop by hitting the 90-degree angle where the locker meets the ground. Immediately after hooking the Gabrielle, I get very lucky and end up catching the Zarina with a last frame teleport. Typically this isn't great, because when a survivor finishes cleansing the hallucination in the tiny window between you activating your teleport and between when you arrive at the shed lane, not only will your hallucination be destroyed, they'll also avoid being weakened by the interruption. You're still right in their face, but it's definitely worse than getting a normal interruption. Thankfully, the Zarina was already weakened, so it's a quick and easy down regardless. Once Zarina is on the hook, we get a really fast chase with the Sable, who makes a very bold play and slowballs back towards me while I'm kicking the gen to try and cleanse her weakness. Unfortunately, she didn't have time to get a good hiding spot, so she's forced to vault back. This blocks the window and forces her to run towards my shedling, which results in an easy hit. She then corners herself in the office, to which I try to block her in using one of my shedlings, meaning that she now has to leave or she'll be dead once I get my teleport off cooldown. However, she makes yet another bold prediction. She assumes I was just going to stall for my cooldown and tries cleansing my shedling. This is an incredibly ballsy play that probably would have worked in her favor if I didn't happen to still be undetectable from unforeseen, meaning that she didn't realize I was behind her until it was too late. I decide to take this opportunity to slug, then I get some sense knocked back into me by Gabrielle's head-on, and decide to just take the hook. Nothing really happens for a while aside from one extremely generous hit over a window until this happens. This is why I personally prefer Unforeseen over Trail of Torment. With the Zarina recently being chased and no obvious indicator that I was undetectable, I'm easily able to scoop up this Gabrielle who thought he was safe. His bad luck streak doesn't end there, as a minute later I catch him off guard while he's trying to hide and he goes down almost instantly, leaving us 1v3 3-gen scenario where all the remaining survivors have Distortion. Yay. From here, the game slows down to a crawl for obvious reasons as we battle it out over the generators, and not much interesting happens except for this absolutely, and I mean absolutely sick dodge by Zarina, who uses a locker to escape the blast radius of my orb. I mean, I'm still geeking out about this. But unfortunately, after that, it's just more back and forth over the generators for a bit. Eventually, Zarina goes down and gets hooked, and I hit a nice arc shot over a giant massive flesh on the sable and hit an incredible, totally, absolutely, without a doubt, intentional bounce shot on the Zarina. As I turn the corner to chase her further, I hear somebody working on the gen right behind me. I slap him once more normally, then get a crazy idea to try and pre-fire the library door, and even if it takes me a second to find a way to detonate the orb, it works out flawlessly. I quickly scurry my way upstairs to claim my hook, then immediately teleport down as to not violate the rules any further. If you're wondering why you can go upstairs to hook without violating the rules, it's purely because from the little I got to talk to the survivors I played against, Sharknown can oftentimes be frustrating to face. I thought it would be more of a fun jump scare thing that leave them screaming like a bunch of idiots playing a Minecraft horror pack at 3 AM. But according to one specific user, it is, quote, almost as bad as facing a 3-gen merchant, unquote. So, adding a heavy layer of slugging on top of something that can already be inaccurately described as a glorified 3-gen simulator, I feel would be too much. You can absolutely slug if you want to, but my personal rule set allows hooking just to keep it from being completely miserable for the survivors. Back to the game on hand, it's important to note that between Nowhere to Hide and Darkness Revealed, I'm finally starting to burn through some Distortion stacks, meaning hiding upstairs is becoming increasingly more dangerous for the survivors. They realize that they can no longer safely hide upstairs, and begin greeting the generators hard. This leads to another few minutes of fighting over gens until eventually the Zarina gets hooked a third and final time. And that's when this happens. This one clip is exactly why Vanishing Box is so good. Not only for this challenge, but in general, but we're only going to look at Vanishing Box within the context of this challenge. They completed the gen only a few frames before the orb detonated, which meant the healthy Sable became weakened by the Vanishing Box, and then was immediately injured by the orb's detonation. If she hadn't been injured, the lithe play she made at the exit gate pallet while I was admittedly just kind of goofing around because I thought I was won this, would have allowed her to get to the stairs and force me to stop chasing her, as to not violate the rules of our challenge. Even if I still hit her with this shot at the top of the stairs, due to her distortion, it's very likely she would have made it out of either the hatch or one of the exit gates once the hatch was closed. Hello there, this is Post-Editing Crow here, and I'm gonna keep it real. I yapped for another like 10-15 minutes about absolutely nothing, so I'm gonna condense that down for y'all and hope for the best, okay? So, the long and short is I said that I had a lot of other fun matches with Sharknown, but I am also a complete idiot when it comes to OBS, and I didn't record either live like commentary while I was playing the game, and I haven't done any post commentary for it either right now, so I don't really know what to do with them because it's literally just raw gameplay with no commentary. And that's a shame because there are a lot of really fun games, but I don't know what to do with it, you know? So let me know, so give me like some ideas, okay, of like what I should do with that, if that makes sense, because I got no clue. Maybe I'll make a montage out of it, maybe I'll just all upload them in like a secret playlist somewhere, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think I should do with that. Other big announcement. Yeah, I'm gonna start streaming again, hopefully. Time and everything on the screen, hopefully. As you can see, very confident in that. I'm having a lot of technical issues right now, so that's always fun. This video has taken like 2 months when I wanted it to take like 2 weeks because of them, and a couple other things in my personal life, so that's really fun. So yeah, streams soon, hopefully. Time on screen, it better be, and there's some more things I forgot, I'm sure, but it's whatever. I'm out in my shed, I'm doing like the C and YMCA in front of my microphone, because I rushed to set this up, because I really want this video out tomorrow, so yeah. Anyways, with all that said, happy hunting, sorry for the weird outro.